All right, welcome everybody. In this quick video, I want to go over one of the biggest misconceptions about life insurance. I had a conversation last night, as we do constantly with new financial advisors, and the comment that this advisor said, in all of your teachings, what you failed to recognize is the cost of the high premiums for insurance. She also said you don't acknowledge how hard it is to get your money, which that was a laughable comment because, as you can see from these videos, it's not hard to get your money at all. It shows up within 5 to 10 business days. But so she made this comment that you don't talk about the cost of the high premiums, and my immediate thought was, well, relative to what? The cost is high relative to what? And her example that she said, literally the sentence before was, when I meet with young people, I'm very adamant that they should start a Roth IRA. Okay, well, let's think about that. What's the most you can put into a Roth? Assuming you can, because if you make too much money, you really can't even contribute money to a Roth unless you do a backdoor Roth, which we can talk about that later, because that's not a bad idea, really. And a lot of older people should take advantage of it if you still can. They're talking about it in Congress, getting rid of that backdoor Roth, but if you can, it's usually a attractive strategy. So she was talking about how young people should put money into a Roth first. Well, what's the most money you can put into a Roth? $6,000. It's like $500 a month. And then her next sentence was, but I know that's not going to get them where they want to go. Why? Because you didn't put enough money in the first place. So what's the cost? The cost is not getting to where you want to go. People immediately go to tools and ignore the strategy behind the tools. A Roth is a great thing, but it's not the only quill in your pack. You have a number of options. And if the strategy really is I want to generate more cash flow, well, the more money I put into anything, ideally I'm going to get more cash flow out of it. The challenge with a Roth is that it can't get you there, traditionally speaking, because you can't put enough money in. So my question to her was, well, if I put $6,000 into a Roth and I put that same amount into life insurance, what's the cost difference? The same amount of money left my account. Life insurance, I at least get a death benefit. Life insurance, I get immediate access to cash value. The Roth, I can't. I got to wait 5 years. Well, Matt, this is for retirement. Okay, but what if I need money before retirement? You just said young people should put money into a Roth. Usually younger people need money. They're the ones that don't have all of the assets yet. So what's the cost is expensive relative to what? Let's look at a 401k. You can put in $18,000 a year. Something like this. Cool, I can put more money. That means I'll get to where I want to faster. All right, well, what about the taxes? You can't even calculate it because you don't know what the taxes are going to be when you pull the money out. You can see a number of videos in the trainings talking about this, but you're funding an account that has a fake value. The account value might say $1 million in your 401. Okay, pull it out tomorrow. Are you going to be able to keep $1 million? No. So you can't even calculate the cost, but no one's showing you that because it's more attractive to talk about the $1 million. You know who else likes it? Is your advisor, because they get to charge you a fee on the gross number of $1 million. This is how you know the difference between gross and net. Gross is the total amount, the big number. It's gross to think about how much is in the account, and then the net is just a little bit that you get to keep. And you can't even define how much you're going to keep until you get to retirement. And depending on what the government wants to keep and depending on how much you take out, then you'll find out what your cost is. There's a lot of people that are in their 60s and 70s that are going, the cost of this is a lot higher than I expected. Why? Because they were successful. What's the purpose of saving? I want to spend money in the long run, right? Well, let's talk about it. If I can put more money into an account, it looks like I have more money, but they don't tell you the cost till the end. So you're going into business with a government-controlled asset and you think you're succeeding. If you've ever heard of a SEP IRA, self-employed people can put up to $50,000 a year into a SEP. Look at the increase here from $6,000 to $18,000 to $50,000. Wow, more money going in. So guess what the odds of that account value being higher? Probably pretty good because I can put more money in. Well, what happens to tax as the account value gets bigger? Here's another question. Is the tax on 2 million higher or less than a tax on $1 million? We still don't know because it depends on how much you're taking out. Do you know how many people I've talked to in their 60s and 70s that have multiple millions inside of pre-tax retirement accounts that hate it? And where do you think tax rates are going to be going? We don't need to talk about that right now. I got $50,000 a year going into it. That's a big cost. You know, this advisor said life insurance premiums, it's expensive. Well, $50,000 is expensive. And if I grow that account as big as I want, I've compounded my tax bill. I have more, I'm going to have more money in the account, which is default. If I take more money out, it's going to create more tax in the long run. So what's the cost? What's the cost here? You have no idea. You're allowing the government to pull the strings. Now, all of this money is going inside of markets, right? What happens to the market? It goes up and down. And we only talk about the wins. You know, the last decade or so, we've had a pretty bullish market. The market's pretty high right now. Well, it's going to go down. You know, we've seen it go down 30 to 40% in a year. A number of times in the past 20 years, it's done that. You know, if your account value goes down 40%, so let's say I start off with 100 grand. I take a 40% loss. I'm down to 60,000. Do you know you have to earn 66+% just to get back to the $100,000 that you had 2 years prior? What's the cost? I get to put more money into a volatile market that could lose value, and now I have to get a phenomenal rate of return just to break even to where I was. This is not something you want to experience during retirement. What's the cost? We can't even calculate what the cost is going to be because we don't know what the market's going to do. So here's the question you should ask yourself. If you want to get better in the financial world, learn how to ask better questions. So the question is this: what is the value of having access to cash in any market? You know the value of that? 2008, people that had access to cash made a lot of money. Banks weren't lending money, but if you had access to cash, you could go get a couple of good deals in real estate. Market did pretty poorly those years. You could go buy some mutual funds and stocks and bonds and probably go do pretty well. Last year when COVID hit, market took a nice little dip. Well, the people that had uncorrelated assets, access to cash elsewhere, could go buy the dip and make a phenomenal rate of return. What's the cost? The cost is not being able to take advantage and being subject to market volatility and future tax. So the cost of a high premium is relative to whatever you put into something else. I talk about the timing of both. Now, I'm not doing day trading where I'm trading on options and calls and puts. I'm talking about basic, easy ideas. COVID hit, market dropped 25, 30%. There's some opportunity there. 2008, market collapses. People's retirement accounts collapses. If I had access to cash inside of life insurance, I could go capitalize. The rate of return of an asset, it has very little to do with the wealth that it can create. Moving money between assets, when you see fit, is much more valuable. Because then we talk about the cash flow. And unfortunately, most of these attractive widgets, accounts like retirement plans, pre-taxed accounts, don't take into account the future cost. Because we don't even know what it is. So when people say the cost of high premiums, I laugh at that. Relative to what? Now, if this is interesting, if you want to dive more into this, make sure you click that Zoom button on the right, schedule a call, and we can apply what you have and look at some of the options that might be available to you. Thanks.